Hello, my dear. You know, people are watching you differently now. The same people who once overlooked you, dismissed you, or thought you were just another face in the crowd, suddenly, their posture changes when you enter the room. Their voices shift when your name is spoken. It's not because you begged for recognition, not because you played by their rules. It's because you shattered their rules, exposed their blind spots, and made them realize they miscalculated. And nothing rattles people more than realizing they underestimated someone who was standing in plain sight. That sting lingers in their chest. That burn crawls in their thoughts at night. They can't undo it. They can't erase it. They can only face the truth that their entire perspective has shifted because of you. It wasn't overnight. They weren't paying attention when you built your armor piece by piece. They didn't notice the sharpened edge of your patience hardening into discipline. They thought you were soft. They thought kindness was weakness. They thought restraint meant submission. But every single act of restraint was a weapon disguised as mercy. Every time you swallowed what you could have said, you were building leverage. Every time you held back when you could have struck, you were storing ammunition. They didn't see the war being fought in quiet corridors, where your endurance rewrote the terms of engagement. And now, those same people are living in the aftermath of their own blindness. You are no longer the person they assumed you were. You've shifted in their minds from background to centerpiece, from expendable to irreplaceable. They talk differently when your name enters the conversation. They calculate differently when your presence changes the dynamics. They don't dare speak of you casually anymore, because now you are the weight in the air. You are the variable that tips the scale. The realization has struck them. They should have treated you better. And that regret is a poison only they must drink. The shift wasn't small. It was seismic, a reshaping of how value is defined. And you were the cause. You didn't scream for it. You didn't beg for it. You forced it by being undeniable, by showing up sharper, stronger, harder than anyone predicted. That's what cuts deepest, because it means their ignorance was a public embarrassment. They misjudged you, while others now recognize you. And recognition at this scale? It rewrites reputations. It reshuffles hierarchies. It crushes excuses. People aren't just seeing your value. They're obsessing over it. They replay past conversations and realize where they underestimated you. They recall dismissive tones, careless words, and failed investments in others instead of you. And now, their hindsight is a prison. Because they can't change the past. They can only endure the punishment of knowing they wasted their chance to stand beside you when it would have cost them less. That's the cruelty of regret. It compounds. And your presence makes that compound interest unbearable. Understand this. When people start wishing they had treated you better, it means you've reached a level they can't access anymore. You've become the checkpoint they failed to pass. And when they realize they're locked out of the next chapter of your story, the envy cuts them deeper than any blade. They'll try to mask it with small talk, with shallow compliments, with flimsy attempts to reconnect. But the truth is written all over their faces. You're no longer someone they can approach without consequence. You've moved, you've shifted, you've ascended, and they are still crawling in the shadows of their own decisions. This is the part they never expected, the point where being nice no longer serves you. You spent too much time being careful, being considerate, giving people the benefit of the doubt. That phase is over. You're not interested in smoothing edges anymore. You've stepped into a reality where every ounce of softness you once gave is replaced with precision, clarity, and power. This isn't cruelty, it's correction. Because the world respects sharpness more than softness, and you are sharper now than ever. Look around. Watch how they move differently around you. The hesitation in their voices, the double takes when you walk by, the quiet recognition that you're no longer playing their game. You've built your own arena. And in that arena, their tricks don't work. Their politics don't matter. Their gossip doesn't land. You've stripped them of every lever they once thought they could pull. The only thing they can do now is acknowledge you. And that acknowledgement is bitter for them, sweet for you. The irony? You didn't need their validation. You never did. But the very fact that they're now forced to validate you against their will, that's power. Real power. Not because you asked for their respect, but because you became undeniable to the point where even their silence counts as confirmation. Every glance, every whisper, every slip of hesitation exposes the truth. You've become the standard they measure against, and that terrifies them. They know now that they can't undo the shift. They can't roll the clock back to the days when you were underappreciated. They can't erase the evolution you've undergone. They can only live with the gnawing knowledge that they could have stood with you but chose not to. And now they're left on the outside, wishing they had treated you differently. While you carve forward with momentum they can't slow down. The truth is brutal. Your kindness was never weakness. It was strategy. And when you finally withdrew it, when you finally turned it off like a switch, they felt the full weight of what they lost. That's why they linger now, haunted. Not because you changed, but because you revealed what was always there. You revealed the version of yourself that never needed their approval in the first place. That revelation is irreversible. You're not done yet. This is only the opening movement of a larger shift. What you've already done is enough to make them regret. But what comes next will make them collapse. Because once someone is exposed to the reality of your value, once they've seen the magnitude of what you can bring, they can never see you as small again. They'll try to pretend, they'll try to downplay, but the illusion won't stick. Their subconscious has already branded you as the one who got away, the one they should have treated better, the one they failed to recognize in time. That thought will corrode their pride until it buckles, and you don't even have to lift a finger anymore. Just existing as you are now is punishment enough for them. Every step you take forward is a reminder of what they can't reclaim. Every victory you secure is a mirror reflecting their blindness. Every door you walk through is a gate they'll never open. That's why they watch you so closely now. Because even from a distance, your rise crushes their excuses. Don't forget this. The version of you they see now isn't just stronger, it's untouchable. They know they can't play you the way they once tried. They know you've stopped negotiating your worth. They know you'll never beg, never settle, never accept less again. That is what terrifies them. That is why the air shifts when you arrive. You've broken the mold they tried to keep you in, and in doing so, you've exposed the truth about every single person who underestimated you. Their regret is the testimony. Their hesitation is the proof. Their changed behavior is the confession. And that's where we stand now. In a world reshaped by your rise, surrounded by people who wish they had chosen differently. They thought they could overlook you without consequence. They thought they could dismiss you without penalty. They thought you'd always play nice, always hold back, always stay quiet. But you didn't. You shifted, you sharpened, You broke out. And now, their perspective will never be the same again. Because what begins with regret doesn't end there. Regret mutates. Regret festers. Regret evolves into something far more dangerous for them and far more powerful for you. And that is exactly where this story leads next, into the territory where regret turns into obsession. At first, they thought regret was manageable. A quiet whisper in the back of their heads telling them they missed out. But whispers grow. Whispers mutate into voices. Voices multiply into echoes. And soon, their entire mind is haunted by the same unshakable realization. They treated you like an option when you were the upgrade. That mistake keeps replaying. Every new accomplishment you achieve pushes the blade deeper into their pride. Every move you make forward slams their face against the reality that they're not part of the story anymore. And the more they try to bury that truth, the louder it screams inside them. This is where psychology turns cruel. Because the brain doesn't forget missed opportunities. It doesn't forgive blind spots. Once it recognizes a miscalculation, it loops the memory like a wound that never closes. They wake up in the night, replaying the words they should have spoken, the respect they should have shown, the doors they should have opened for you. And now those same doors are locked forever. Every second of reflection tightens the noose of their regret. And whether they admit it out loud or not, they know you've shifted permanently beyond their reach. You didn't just change how they see you. You changed how they see themselves. That's the part they'll never admit in public, but it's the part that corrodes them in private. Because once someone realizes they misjudged a person of your magnitude, they also realize their judgment isn't reliable. If they were wrong about you, what else are they wrong about? Their confidence starts cracking. Their decisions start trembling. Their certainty begins to collapse under the weight of that one error. That's the hidden punishment. By misjudging you, they've lost faith in themselves. And while they spiral in doubt, you've shifted into clarity. You're not wasting time questioning your worth anymore. You've crossed the line where you no longer negotiate with people who failed to recognize you when they had the chance. You're done playing nice. You're done explaining yourself. You're done waiting for people to catch up. That entire era is dead. What stands now is a sharpened version of you, one that no longer apologizes for being more. Think about what that does to them. You've stopped shrinking. You've stopped softening your edges for their comfort. You've stopped handing out free chances. And now, every interaction is a mirror shoved in their faces. They can't control the narrative anymore. They can't twist the story to make themselves look wise, generous, or superior. The truth is carved into stone. They undervalued you, and now they're paying the highest price. People talk about fear of loss, but what's worse is the torment of missed investment. They realize now that backing you earlier would have been the smartest decision they could have made. Instead, they invested in others, and those others didn't deliver. They poured energy into shallow talent, weak loyalty, or inflated egos. Meanwhile, you grew in silence, hardened in shadows, and rose with momentum they couldn't stop. And now they sit there, staring at their empty returns, wishing they had chosen you. That kind of financial regret is one thing, but emotional regret? That sticks like acid. They envy you differently now. Not the superficial envy of possessions or status. This envy cuts deeper. They envy your discipline. They envy your clarity. They envy the fact that you no longer need anything from them. That independence terrifies people who once thought you'd always be at their mercy. Because the truth is, dependence was their leash. And the moment you burned it, the moment you stopped asking for their approval, you flipped the balance of power forever. This is what perspective shifting does. It doesn't just change how they look at you, it changes how they look at everything around them. You forced them to recalibrate, to question their standards, to reconsider who truly matters and who doesn't. And in that recalibration, one truth stands out like fire. They wish they had treated you better. Not just a little better, radically better. Because now they understand the cost of their negligence. The cost is access. Access to your presence. Access to your energy. Access to your guidance, your ideas, your loyalty, your spark. They squandered it. They squandered you. And now they're locked out while others gain what they lost. That's the dagger that twists the deepest, knowing someone else benefits from the version of you they failed to value. They don't just regret the past, they resent the present. Because it reminds them they can't reclaim you. This is where your power multiplies. Because you don't have to lift a single finger to punish them. Your rise is the punishment. Your distance is the retribution. Your refusal to play nice anymore is the justice they never saw coming. And the more you rise, the heavier their regret grows. It's a self-feeding cycle. You grow stronger, they grow weaker. You move forward, they get stuck replaying the past. You open new doors, they bang on the locked ones they closed with their own arrogance. You've shifted from being underestimated to being unforgettable. That's the transition they never saw coming. They thought overlooking you would erase you. Instead, it immortalized you. You became the name that lives in their regret. You became the reference point in their failures. You became the example whispered behind closed doors of what happens when you dismiss the wrong person. You're not just a lesson, you're the warning label. And here's the most brutal part. You're not even angry anymore. You don't need anger. Anger would mean you still care. But you've detached. You've outgrown them so far that their apology wouldn't even matter. Their validation wouldn't move you. Their recognition is too late to carry any weight. That's what shreds them the most, knowing they could offer you every compliment in the world, and it still wouldn't erase the fact that they failed when it counted. Your value is undeniable now. It shines in everything you do. It radiates in the way people respond to you. It echoes in the opportunities you attract, and they can't deny it anymore. Even if they wanted to, the evidence crushes them. You've become the standard in rooms you haven't even entered yet. Your name circulates in places they can't reach. Your influence spreads into networks they can't infiltrate. And with every new step, you pull further and further away from the version of you they once thought they could control. So here's the question you must understand. What do you do with this new perspective-shifted power? You stop apologizing, you stop negotiating, you stop explaining, and you start owning. Owning the presence that bends rooms, owning the reputation that unsettles rivals, owning the fact that you no longer have to play nice with anyone who treated you like less. You've shifted from survival to dominance, and dominance doesn't ask for permission. Look at them now. The same people who ignored you are trying to circle back. The same voices that dismissed you now echo fake admiration. The same hands that once withheld now stretch forward like beggars. But you see through it. You recognize that their praise isn't admiration, it's desperation. Desperation to be tied to your momentum. Desperation to be associated with your rise. desperation to rewrite their own story by clinging to yours. And that's the part you deny them, because you're done playing nice. Your energy is no longer free. Your presence is no longer casual. Your loyalty is no longer given, it's earned. And most of them already lost the chance to earn it. That's why their regret turns venomous. They wish they had treated you better, but wishing doesn't rewind time. They can't buy back your patience. They can't purchase your forgiveness. They can only watch as you rise, higher and sharper, while their regret festers like rust, eating their pride. That's the punishment of underestimating you. Not that you get revenge in some dramatic outburst, not that you scream or confront. The punishment is simpler. The punishment is cleaner. The punishment is that they're excluded, they're cut off. They're left behind while you move forward with people who saw your value before it became impossible to ignore. And that exclusion is permanent. So remember this: people are watching you differently now, but not because you demanded it, because you became the kind of force that demanded acknowledgement. And in that acknowledgement lies their confession. They failed you. They undervalued you. They wasted their chance. And now, you're not just done playing nice. You're done giving them access at all. And yet this is not the conclusion. This is only the second movement. Because what happens after regret and obsession? What happens when they stop just watching and start reacting? When they stop whispering and start moving? That's where the story sharpens even further. That's where the consequences escalate. And that's exactly where this path leads into the moment when regret mutates into action. Because people can only sit with regret for so long before it drives them mad. And when they're mad, they react. At first, the reactions are subtle. They show up in quiet shifts of behavior. The ones who once overlooked you now rush to acknowledge you publicly, pretending they were always supportive. The ones who mocked you suddenly mimic your language, your moves, your style, trying to leech off the energy they denied before. But no imitation can erase the truth. They weren't there when it mattered. And their reactions, no matter how loud, only expose how desperate they've become. Then the reactions intensify. Some will try to discredit you, not because you're wrong, but because they're desperate to rewrite the narrative that paints them as blind. They'll whisper doubts, spin half-truths, and exaggerate flaws. But every attempt collapses under the same weight, your undeniable value. The evidence of your rise is too strong. Their stories sound hollow against the backdrop of your results. And instead of erasing your power, their attacks only highlight how much you matter. Because nobody wastes energy fighting what isn't significant. Others will try to crawl back. They'll knock at doors they once slammed. They'll try to shake your hand, as if the past can be erased with a smile. But you've shifted too far to play along. You see through the charade. You know their admiration is not built on respect, but on survival. They're scrambling to stay close to the fire they once ignored. And this time, you don't extend mercy. You don't play nice. Because every act of forgiveness without accountability only teaches them to repeat the same betrayal. That cycle is over. And then there are those who will do nothing but watch. Watching you rise is punishment enough. They scroll past your name, pretending not to care. But the pause in their thumb betrays them. They hear your victories through whispers in circles they no longer belong to. They stay quiet at tables where your influence is the centerpiece of discussion. Their silence isn't indifference, it's surrender. They're too ashamed to admit they miscalculated, so they mask it in stillness. But stillness doesn't erase regret. It magnifies it. What all these reactions prove is simple. You've shifted their perspective so completely that they can't return to the world as it was before. They live in a reality where your presence is undeniable, where your value has been redefined as the standard, and where their failure to see it earlier haunts every decision they make now. You've fractured their worldview. You've forced them into a corner where the only options are confession or collapse, and both options cost them everything. But here's the brutal truth. They deserve it. They deserve the sleepless nights, replaying what they should have done differently. They deserve the weight of regret pressing on their chest every time your name is spoken. They deserve the envy that burns when they see others gaining the benefit of the loyalty they threw away. Because this isn't just about you proving them wrong. This is about them facing the reality that they failed at one of the most critical human skills, recognizing true value when it's standing right in front of them. And while they spiral, you rise. Not with permission, not with validation, with authority. The kind of authority that doesn't come from titles or applause, but from the raw, undeniable fact that you've become the center of gravity. Rooms bend around you now. Conversations pivot toward your name. Decisions tilt in your direction even when you're not present. That's what it means to shift perspective. You've changed the lens through which people measure importance. And in that new lens, you are unavoidable. This is where you move beyond recognition into dominion. You're no longer just someone they respect. You're someone they fear losing alignment with. Your absence is louder than their presence. Your distance is heavier than their words. They know they can't manipulate you anymore. They know they can't guilt you into playing small. They know you've stopped negotiating your worth. And that terrifies them more than anything. Because when someone stops negotiating, they stop being controlled. You've ended the era of being underestimated. You've ended the era of being overlooked. You've ended the era of playing nice so others could stay comfortable. That entire version of you is buried, and the one standing now is uncompromising. You've drawn the line so clearly that anyone who tries to cross it cuts themselves. And that sharpness isn't cruelty, it's justice. Justice for every moment they thought you didn't notice the disrespect. Justice for every time they thought they could treat you as less. Justice for the energy you gave freely to people who didn't deserve it. Now every move you make forward is a broadcast of justice. Every win is a verdict. Every success is a sentence carried out in real time. And the more you rise, the heavier the weight of their regret becomes. It's not revenge. It's revelation. Because the greatest punishment isn't what you do to them. It's what they realize they've done to themselves. And here's what they'll never admit, but always feel. They want you back. Not because they deserve you, but because they finally see what they lost. They'll try to convince themselves they don't care, that they've moved on, that their lives are fine without you. But the moment they see your name, the moment they hear your victories, the moment they watch someone else standing beside you, they break all over again. Their chest tightens, their pride shatters, their mind whispers the same truth. I should have treated them better. But it's too late. Access denied, doors closed, bridges burned. You're not just done playing nice. You're done giving chances to people who proved they can't value them. That shift is permanent. And once permanent, it's irreversible. Understand this. You've turned regret into a mirror. Every time they look at you, They don't just see your success, they see their failure. And that reflection is a prison. They can't escape it. They can't silence it. They can't rewrite it. They carry it everywhere, like a shadow that won't disappear no matter how much light they stand in. You are the reminder they can't erase, and that reminder will follow them to the end. This is why you don't soften. This is why you don't bend. This is why you don't go back. Because going back would erase the very power you've earned. You've built yourself into the version of you that people can no longer take lightly. You've crossed the threshold where every ounce of your energy is sacred, and every person who approaches must come with respect, or not at all. That is the new order. That is the shift you've created. And what comes next? Momentum? Because the truth about perspective shifts is that once they happen, they ripple outward. It doesn't stop with the people who failed you. It spreads. Others see how you were underestimated, and they learn. Others recognize how you rose, and they adjust. Entire networks recalibrate around your presence. You've become a case study in transformation, a living proof of what happens when someone refuses to stay small. And that story spreads faster than any rumor ever could. That's the other side of this evolution. They don't just regret the past. They feared the future. They know your trajectory doesn't stop here. They see that your rise has no ceiling, and that terrifies them more than the regret itself. Because regret anchors them to the past, but fear chains them to what's coming. They know they'll have to watch you break ceilings they can't even touch. They know they'll be spectators to the kind of victories they'll never taste. And they know every win you secure deepens the sentence they wrote for themselves. You've shifted into a kind of presence that creates pressure in every room. The air is thicker when you're there. People measure their words more carefully. Eyes track your moves with a mixture of admiration and envy. That's the weight of value once it becomes undeniable. And it's why you can never go back to who you were before. Because once people see you through this lens, they can't unsee it. The perspective is permanently altered, and you hold the power of that alteration. So let them wish, let them regret, let them replay the past until it corrodes them. Because you don't owe them anything. You don't owe them softness. You don't owe them patience. You don't owe them access. What you owe is to yourself, to stay sharp, to stay elevated, to stay untouchable. And in doing so, you guarantee that every single person who failed to value you will choke on the same thought for the rest of their lives. I should have treated them better. And as for you, you don't even look back, because the story isn't about them anymore. It's about you. It's about the fact that people see your value now, but you no longer need their sight to confirm what you've always known. You are done playing nice. You are done waiting. You are done proving. You've shifted the world around you, and in that shift, you've claimed the one position no one can ever take from you again, the position of being undeniable. And if there's one truth to leave them with, it's this: your existence is no longer a request, it's a command. Your path isn't a suggestion, it's a declaration, and the people who once doubted you will spend the rest of their days bound to the same echo that will never release them. They should have treated you better, because now they'll never get another chance.